Are you the one everybody looks to for the answers because you always know what's going on and you're great at getting things done? In fact, people rely on you to get things done. But at the same time, do you find yourself sometimes totally stressed out because you seem like you're the only one that knows everything that's going on? You're the one that's reminding everybody else of what they need to do. If I'm talking to you, then there's a word. You may not have ever actually described it this way, but there's a word that may just describe you. And I'm going to kind of talk to you about whether or not this is an issue. And I've got some tips for how you can resolve it. So the word is simply over-responsibility. People who are over-responsible are beyond just being responsible for themselves, but they seem to take on the responsibility of other people. And sometimes they don't even realize how much stress that's causing them. In fact, if they didn't take on everybody else's responsibilities, reminding them of things, remembering what everybody else has to do, answering for other people, they might not be so busy. Does this sound familiar to you? Well, here are a few of the signs that you know that over-responsibility is a problem and something you want to address. So number one, if you behave as though everything and everyone depends on you. Everything and everyone depends on you. But deep down, if you're honest with yourself, you might admit that you're actually kind of proud of the fact that you're the one with all the answers, that you're the one that can get things done. In fact, that might be a little bit of your identity because you've been praised for it. In some ways, you've been rewarded for it. And at the same time, sometimes it's a bit of a burden. So number one, you behave as though everything and everyone relies and depends on you. Here's number two. You answer questions for other people that they could answer for themselves. In fact, you might be sitting in a meeting or somebody might ask your teenage child something and you chime in before they even have a chance to answer. If that's you, you know that you're being over responsible. Think about it. What would it feel like if you stopped answering for everybody else, if you stopped feeling responsible for them? Because the truth is, when we do that, oftentimes we're enabling other people, or we might even be holding them back from stepping fully up to the plate, taking responsibility, growing in their own level of confidence and ability to get things done. So here's number three. You consistently remind the people in your life of their own responsibilities. I mean, basically, you're like a walking secretary for them. Remember your doctor's appointment tomorrow. Remember we have that project that's due. Did you make sure to make that phone call? Does that sound familiar? Whether you're doing it in a work environment or a home environment, it's so important, again, to allow others to step up and be responsible. That doesn't mean that if you see a train wreck coming, that you don't say something. But if you never allow others to take responsibility for themselves, and sometimes to even face the consequences of not taking responsibility, then you enable them to never step up to the plate. And what you do is you make your plate more full. In fact, it might be overly full, so much so that you're not able to take care fully of the responsibilities that you have. You may find yourself stressed out because you can't be at your best because you've got too much on your own plate. Okay, two more. You avoid confrontation as much as possible. You are entirely uncomfortable with the idea of talking to people who are not stepping up to the plate. And in fact, you hate the idea of confrontation so much that you would rather keep doing for other people what they can do for themselves than to ask them to do what they've already signed up to do, what they are already responsible for. It is critical, number one, to just acknowledge your fear. If you've got the fear, it's there. And it's something you can overcome. You may want to script out what the conversation looks like. You may want to talk with a coach about it. You may talk with a friend or a family member and say, how could I address this? What are all the things I'm afraid might go wrong? Fact of the matter is, at some point, you're going to have to muster the courage to have the conversation. Or you can just stop doing all the stuff you've been doing for them and let them figure it out on their own. Either way, don't be afraid of the confrontation to the point where you won't speak up. And then here's the last thing, and I think this can affect us more than anything else. If you find yourself resentful of people because you feel like they feel entitled to your generosity. So you're resentful because they feel entitled for you to take care of things they should take care of themselves. They feel entitled that you're supposed to do their work or do their chores or remind them of things that they should already have their own reminders set up for. If you're in that place, it's not a good place, and ultimately it's going to impact your relationships. Resentment is nothing more than anger that has not been expressed. And so before you even let it get to resentment, it's better to just go ahead and say, hey, these are my boundaries and they've been crossed. And if you're in a place of resentment, being able to be honest is the first step to being able to only be responsible for you and to stop being over responsible, stepping into the territory of others. Because if we really think about it, being over responsible is the reverse of violating boundaries. When you feel like people are violating your boundaries because they expect you to do things you shouldn't have to do, the truth of the matter is you stepped into their territory to do what they were responsible for. When you can set clear boundaries about what you're responsible for and what others are responsible for, and you respect those boundaries, your relationships begin to flourish, your stress begins to melt, and you'll find you have a lot more time to be your best at the things you were meant to be responsible for. If you'd like more life strategies, just go out to my blog and visit me at valerieburton.com/blog. I'll talk to you next time.